Over 1 million people have now gone missing, just vanished. And the mainstream media is left with their perplexing, lingering question, just where did everybody go and what on earth happened? Now, thankfully, I am not talking about the rapture spoken of in Bible prophecy. That would be really bad for all of us, considering we are still here. But what I am talking about is the fact that since the year 2020, the year that the Biden administration and the Democratic Party crucified, if you will, the American population with COVID-19 mandates and measures and masks. Well, ever since that year, our public schools have lost 1.2 million of our children, not to mention that a lot of these schools are teaching radical leftist policies. Well, take a look at what I'm talking about here. Here's the New York Times article about it, and it states, with plunging enrollment, a seismic hit to public schools. The pandemic has supercharged the decline in the nation's public school system in ways that experts say will not easily be reversed. It goes on. American public schools have lost at least 1.2 million students since 2020, according to a recent published national survey. State enrollment figures show no sign of a rebound to the previous national levels anytime soon. This is a seismic loss for our school systems, which it goes on to detail what school systems were hit hardest in what states and what states were rarely or minimally impacted. Take a look at some of the shocking data, because as you're going to see, Democrat states like California were hit the hardest, of course. In large urban districts, the drop-off has been particularly acute. The LA Unified School District's non-charter schools lost some 43,000 students over the past 2 school years. Enrollment in the Chicago schools has dropped by about 25,000 in that time frame. Now, what do these school systems have in common? They closed their doors for a very long time, and the children remote learned for a very long time. And of course, the masks that were forced on our children for years in these school districts. Here's another one here. California, which educates roughly 1 in 8 of the nation's public school children, for the first time in 2 decades, public school enrollment fell below 6 million this academic year. And I'm going to give a big applause to that, because the less children we have in these liberal leftist radical schools, the better. It goes on to detail some of the states that were less impacted, which guess what? The state less impacted just so happened to be the state that opened their school doors early and didn't force mask mandates on their kids for long periods of time. Here we go. In some states where schools eschewed remote instruction, Florida, for instance, enrollment has not only rebounded, but it remained robust. Well, I wonder why that happened. Well, the New York Times gives their own personal assessment on why they, liberal leftists, think that this happened. And take a look at their assessment here. They're on point a little bit. And here it goes. No overriding explanation has emerged yet for the widespread drop-off. Yeah, it has, but I digress. But experts point to 2 potential causes. Some parents became so fed up with remote instruction or mask mandates that they started homeschooling their children or sending them to private schools that largely remained open during the pandemic. And other families were thrown into such turmoil by pandemic-related job losses, homelessness, and school closures that their children simply dropped out. Now, obviously, the reasoning on the New York Times, I agree with. I don't disagree. However, like leftists always do, they leave a lot of information out. Here's some of the stuff that I want to add. Number 1, school closures. In these Democrat-run areas, some of these schools were left closed for years, leaving parents to educate and train their own kids at home, which, by the way, led to a massive homeschool movement for the population because parents started learning the crap that that these schools were teaching, like critical race theory and sexualization of our children. And this led to parents understanding what's really going on in the school district and how radical leftist policies are invading their children. So a lot of parents, after seeing the remote learning at home, decided to stay home and homeschool their children. Now, on the other aspect, or the other side of that, these school closures caused a lot of parents to have to lose their jobs because they would have to stay home and educate their children. And some people cannot afford that. That caused many problems. And some people would move to other states and whatnot. And on top of that, this just really, with other children, it really messed with the learning because a lot of kids need some kind of one-on-one instruction. So it really messed with our school children. Now, a second reason here is mask. A lot of parents were not okay seeing their kids go to school and be masked for 8 hours on end. They didn't like it. They were very upset with the school district, and thereby a lot of parents disagreed with what was going on, removed their kids out, and took them out altogether because of what the schools were doing. Other things that added to that, obviously loss of jobs. A lot of parents lost their jobs due to what happened due to the pandemic, relocation, moving from a Democrat state to a Republican state, as you saw. And of course, what we also learned during the pandemic, parents also learned, is that teachers were not responsive to parents. They didn't care what parents thought. Many of them didn't. They didn't care what parents said. Teachers became ultimate control over the kids in the classroom, and parents had no say whatsoever. And this sparked a revolution, if you will, with parents waking up to what's going on in these woke schools. And not to mention the woke teachers union, which kept demanding things of our children. These woke teacher unions really like staying home and teaching our children virally or via these Zoom calls or whatever, because of course they get to do it from home and have extra time. So we have these teacher unions not really focused on what our children need or what the parents want, but focused more on what is important to them. That's what caused this mass movement and mass missing amount of children in our school districts. Not only that, one of the things that really started hitting home for parents is the fact that this was all about the money for a lot of these teacher unions and organizations. Take a look at what I'm talking about. This is that same New York Times article. And here's Miss Raza, a lab director at the Georgetown University, stated. And here's what she says. When you lose kids, you lose money. There's no hidden piece to the puzzle. You have to close school and lay off people. And every day you spend trying to avoid that, your kids are getting older and still not reading. And your district is spending money it's not going to have. So we need to keep the kids in school so we have money. Money, 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 money. Meanwhile, our schools are teaching crap like this.
Thank you. I'm going to read you an assignment given to my 15-year-old daughter at a local high school. This will be horrifying for me to read to you, but that will give you perspective on how she must have felt when her teacher required her to memorize this and to act it out in front of her entire class. I don't love you. It's not you. It's just, I don't like your dick, or any dick in that case. I cheated, Joe.
I'm sorry.
This is propaganda.
Forgive me. Excuse me. I don't, thank you so much for your, thank you for your comment. Forgive me. We're not using profanity. Are you?
Okay.
We have the time back. That's relevant.
Okay.
Yes. The teacher required my daughter to memorize this and read this pornographic material.
Excuse me. Please don't engage with the audience.
Okay. Sorry,
so please continue your public comment. Your time is, you've got 1 minute and 19 seconds.
Just sick. Just sick. The word there that was bleeped out starts with a D, has two things in the middle, two blanks in the middle, and a K at the end. This is what they're forcing 15-year-olds to read. I think parents are upset with the sexualization of our children, with the critical race theory teaching of their children. Meanwhile, Kirk Cameron has good advice. Take a look here. Kirk Cameron says it's high time for homeschooling. Slams public schools. It's doing more grooming for left politics than it is in education. If you have the option to do that, by all means. I actually homeschooled my kids, my eldest until 8th grade. She's now out of school altogether, and my other till about 5th grade. So if you have the option, so I homeschooled for a time and then I sent them to public school for a time. But if you have the ability to do that, always a great option. And if not, then make sure you educate your kids in the right direction and you're paying attention to what the schools are giving them. Anyhow, I wanted to bring you all that information so you kind of get what's truly going on. I think a lot of times that we ignore the school systems, but we really shouldn't, because these are the next generation of people. Anyhow, with that, please don't forget to check out my partner at ketowithlisa.com. This stuff is absolutely amazing. If you're looking to lose weight without doing the keto diet, this will definitely help you with that. Obviously, I still, work on my body and whatnot, but this stuff just really kickstarts it. You can mix it in your coffee every morning, or if you do milkshakes in the morning, you can mix it in that. And basically, what it does is it helps you lose that weight that you've been long wanting to lose. And so it's one of my favorite products, but check it out at ketowithlisa.com and take advantage of up to 51% off. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven signing out.